His intelligence analysts estimated that 78% of the guides smuggling other migrants were Mexicans younger than 18, teenagers often hired or conscripted by drug cartels that knew they would not be prosecuted if caught, and he wanted to attack this loophole. So in other words, this is a big problem. It's not parents bringing children over all the time. Why don't we remove those juveniles from the smuggling cycle? Harris, the outgoing commander of the Laredo sector of U.S. Customs and Border Protection, recalled thinking, again, this is under Obama. Now, as a result of that decision, young Mexicans are being held for months without charge in shelters across the United States, sometimes without their parents' knowledge. Remember, we talked about this the other day. Since the program began in May, 536 juveniles have been held, 248 of whom have been deported to Mexico after an average stay of 75 days, according to Border Patrol statistics. Mexican authorities say some of these repeat border crossers have spent as much as 6 months in U.S. custody while they await an appearance before an immigration judge. And it goes on in great length. This never appeared on Jake Tapper's show. It didn't appear on it 3 years ago, and it hasn't appeared on it since. Despite him and his ilk on CNN, on MSNBC, in the White House press corps, from the New York Times, from the Washington Post, right here, from NBC and ABC and CBS, all they have to do is a little bit of research on themselves to know that this problem was a huge problem before Donald Trump became president of the United States. That there was a federal court decision in the Ninth Circuit before Donald Trump became president of the United States. That, in fact, children were being separated from adults before Donald Trump became president of the United States. But, Mark, it wasn't as a no-tolerance policy, but it was at a sometimes tolerance policy, and they didn't address it. Now, there are more stories on this that I'd like to point out as well. There were photographs. The Daily Caller has a whole bunch of photographs of the conditions in detention centers during the Obama administration. Jake Tapper missed all of this, as did CNN and MSNBC and all the rest of them. Now, Jake Tapper and the media have ignored a lot in order to attack Trump and to demagogue this issue, including another Washington Compost piece. I just read you one from March 11, 2015, which I referred to earlier in the week, if not last week. Then there's one January 2016. The Obama administration failed to protect thousands of Central American children who have flooded across the U.S. border since 2011, leaving them vulnerable to traffickers and to abuses at the hands of government-approved caretakers. A Senate investigation found at no time did Laura Bush write an op-ed. At no time did Michelle Obama have a chat with her husband. At no time were any of the Democrats who are squawking now, squawk back then. At no time did Jake Tapper find this important enough to talk about. Hollywood, absolutely silent. The Office of Refugee Resettlement, an agency of the Department of Health and Human Services, failed to do proper background checks of adults who claim the children, which is exactly what the Trump administration is trying to do. Allowed sponsors to take custody of multiple unrelated children, which what the Trump administration is trying to prevent, and regularly place children in homes without visiting the locations, according to a 56-page investigative report. And once the children left federally funded shelters, the report said the agency permitted their adult sponsors to prevent caseworkers from providing them post-release services. Nazi Germany? Question mark? Senator Rob Portman initiated the 6-month investigation after several Guatemalan teens were found in dilapidated trailer park near Marion, Ohio, where they were being held captive by traffickers and forced to work on a local egg farm. The boys were among more than 125,000 unaccompanied minors who've surged into the United States since 2011, fleeing violence and unrest in Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. Here's your left-wing policies. It's Trump who's having to deal with them. It's Sessions who's having to deal with them. That is the results of these left-wing policies. They are inhumane. They lack compassion, just like Jake Tapper and the whole phalanx of miscreants and malcontents on MSLSD, CNN, and all the rest of them. Never said a damn thing. Never said a thing. It is intolerable that human trafficking, modern-day slavery, could occur in our own backyard, Portman said in a written statement. What makes the Marion cases even more alarming is that a U.S. government agency was responsible for delivering some of the victims into the hands of their abusers. What do you say, Laura Bush, Michelle Obama? Barack Obama has the gall to put out a statement today about Trump. The report concluded that administration policies and procedures were inadequate to protect the children in the agency's care. HHS spokesman Mark Weber said in a statement that the agency would review the committee's findings carefully and continue to work to ensure the best care for the children we serve. The report was released ahead of a hearing before the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. Portman chairs it. Claire McCaskill's the ranking Democrat. It detailed nearly 30 cases where unaccompanied children had been trafficked after federal officials released them to sponsors or where there were serious trafficking indicators. And it goes on and on and on and on. Little over a year and a half ago. Not a damn word out of Jake Tapper's mouth. Nothing. No executive orders from Obama, I'll tell you. Nothing. Incredible, no? The Intelligencer, New York. January 29, 2016. While the Obama administration was doing nothing to block the Russian interference in our election, they were perpetrating these activities. Eric Levitz, the United States government, placed an unknown number of Central American migrant children into the custody of human traffickers after neglecting to run the most basic checks on these so-called caregivers, according to a Senate report. In the fall of 2013, Obama, tens of thousands of unaccompanied minors traveled to the U.S. southern border in flight from poverty and gang violence in Central America. At least 6 of those children were eventually resettled, and we get into the egg farm and so forth. And there's a lot more that these multi-billion-dollar media corporations failed to cover. That's why, Jake Tapper, you're the liar. You're the fraud. When the president said he inherited this, these were Democrat policies. He was right. A left-wing judge in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. A left-wing judge, left-wing policies. He was right. He wants to secure the border so fewer and fewer illegal aliens come into this country. Jake Tapper, the media, and the Democrats will not accept it. They won't secure the border. So more and more people come here illegally, and there are consequences. There are many evil people, drug traffickers, pedophiles, all kinds of people who are dragging kids across the border in order to get into this country. And we are trying to separate the good from the bad. And we are attacked as running concentration camps or internment camps by a former first lady, by another former first lady, by a former president under whom this activity was taking place, by a media in the aggregate whose asses are in Washington, D.C., and they never get off their fat asses to find out what's going on because they don't care. They heard this could be used against Trump, and off to the races they are. Well, they're really enforcing the law, though, really separating the... Now the president signs an executive order, which in my humble opinion, he really had to do, but, just so you understand, will eventually be shot down. Because it violates that federal court order. Because Chuck Schumer said, use your pen, Mr. President, use your pen. We can't get legislation passed here. Exposed himself again as the political snake oil salesman he is.